We have some cases in Brazil. I visited some families that had suffered these light beams in the body and had a permanent brain injury and had a lot of mental diseases. And today behave like a child. Silva was a woman that was affected when she had 18 years. As I said, the phenomena preferred young women at that time, Operation Saucer. And after that, he started to develop this mental illness. But we talked with a lot of their family, and the family say that she developed ability to do some premonitions, like to predict when bad things will occur. For example, my father will be bitten by a venomous snake. When she says something that makes sense, it's something like a prediction like that. We heard this in the past with other people that was having close encounters and develop abilities.
Ronnie, thank you so much for being here with us today. Before we get into your extensive research on the UFO phenomenon in South America, can you first tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started investigating this topic?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Christina. Thank you for your audience that will watch this. I'm originally not a UFO guy. I started to research UAP, UFO cases in 2018. I'm an electronics and computer engineer based here in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I'm specialized in telecommunications, industrial automation, so this is my original expertise. And I work with that. I work as an engineer here for the Brazilian government in the area of energy, more specifically oil and gas industry. And I'm right now finishing my master in physics research in Brazilian Center for Research in Physics, which is a Brazilian federal government institute, and in the area of cosmic rays, high energy physics, applying artificial intelligence. So this is my technical background, and as I said, in 2018, I finally started to study some UFO cases. Basically, I had my first experience here in some rural areas in Brazil, isolated areas, but near my home in Rio. And after that, it changed my life. I started to research more and more and more about the phenomena. And finally, in 2020, literally in the middle of the pandemics, I obtained from Brazilian government some documents, hundreds of pages, videos of testimonies collected by the Brazilian Federal Police about the cases in Amazon, close encounters between anomalous phenomena and indigenous people in isolated tribes in the extreme northeast of Brazil. So this is how everything started.
And so in 2018, when you really started to do a deeper dive into this, was it because of a sighting that you just had prior to that? Is that correct?
I didn't have any prior experiences or contact with phenomena or studies of the phenomena. Starting 2018, because of experience I had, I read a book, a famous book from a researcher in Brazil, where a place near my home where the phenomena happens from decades. And I went there to try to investigate to know, oh, if it exists, I want to see. So, fortunately, I don't think anything happens randomly. I think it was not proposed because maybe if I want witnesses anything, maybe I won't study UFOs anymore. So I think that had that experience happened in 2018 uh, to start my adventure here in this topic.
And you've done some pretty amazing stuff, but how does your background as an electronic and computer engineer influence your approach to your UFO research?
Yes, as soon as I had this experience, I witnessed a close encounter with some orbs, some white orbs at that time. It's not very close to where I live. It's 3 hours by car, a very difficult road. So, as I have this background of electronic engineering, computer engineering, I started to think in terms of how to monitor, how to put equipments, how to put some sensors to monitor this phenomena continually. So I asked the proprietary of the range where I witnessed this phenomena if I could put some equipment. And this is how everything started. I started to put some the first cameras, after that some sensors, and until now I'm currently constantly evolving this station to monitor what happens there.
That's really exciting. And I'm aware that you discovered that the sacred Salmao tree, believed to be a portal, correlates with UFO sighting locations. So, how might setting up sensors around this portal tree challenge or expand our understanding of the connection between indigenous beliefs and the UAP phenomena that you're observing?
Yeah, this is not the first time in Brazil that I hear this story about a big tree, a sacred tree being a portal. Here in this near this place where I witnessed the first phenomenon in 2008 here in Rio, there is a Jequitibá. Jequitibá is another tree, a very big tree that you encounter in Brazil. And near this big tree, this Jequitibá, we also have these orange orbs manifesting here in Rio. And when I did this first mission in Amazon right now this year, when I asked the indigenous chief what we have in that location, in that direction, that these orbs are coming in and out, and say to me, no, there we have this Samauma, which is also a sacred tree, a very big tree. And Samauma is the sacred tree from Amazon. We have Jequitibá in other places in Brazil, including near Rio, but Samauma we encounter only in Amazon. And the interpretation of indigenous people is that the Samauma is a portal for beings from the forest. So this impressed me a lot. I tried to go there. The indigenous people prohibited me. It was not permitted because that's sacred local. They don't go there at night because they think in their culture that at night we are susceptible to bad spirits, strong spirits, bad spirits there. So they don't recommend, they don't permit anyone outside the village to go there. So it was not possible to me to reach there the night, but I visit during the day. I wanted to install some equipment there, but it's not possible because of technical difficulties. It's very dense forest, very big trees. The only way to do something there was to install maybe a big tower with this equipment on the top of the tower to monitor, because these are trees that can reach 30 meters or 100 feet height. Very these are like buildings, the height of these trees. So we have a lot of difficult technical problems about the location, but I'm thinking maybe install some trail cams that you put that you install on the tree to try to monitor something. It's something I think a lot of technical maybe technical new equipment to try to bring there in my next mission to try to install some equipment to monitor that location. It's not the location where I was in the village, in the indigenous village. Is far from the indigenous village. So I'm trying to think some possibilities to try to monitor also that area where the UAP are coming in and out the forest.
When do you think your next investigation in that area will be where you're able to place those trail cams that you mentioned?
Yeah, I'll have to negotiate with the indigenous chief. They are finishing their ceremonious period that have 2 to 3 weeks. It's ending right now. And after this week, I'll start the negotiations with the indigenous chief. And maybe I'm thinking, I'm talking with Ross Kuta is the journalist that wants a lot to go there and bring a TV crew with him. And I try to negotiate to end of September, beginning of October. This is the period that I'm thinking about.
That sounds pretty recent. That's very exciting. And so then how do you approach the cultural differences in interpreting and reporting these phenomena between indigenous and non-indigenous populations?
Yeah, these indigenous populations right now in Brazil, almost all of them, they have access to Starlink antennas. They have access to the cities nearby. They are isolated physically, but they travel and go to the city. So they have a lot of uh, communications with people non indigenous. So right now, the indigenous tribes that I talk, they are not the testimonies are not very different from the non-indigenous people. The hypothesis that they put, for example, non-indigenous peoples could say, "Oh, it's extraterrestrials," but indigenous people never say that. They say beings from the forest, maybe spirits. So there is a different approach about the interpretation of the hypothesis that what it could be. But the way they explain it, it's almost the same of non-indigenous. Like it was a circular orb, it was orange. Sometimes the indigenous have difficulties to estimate sizes and colors. It's a issue that they have. But the main descriptions are almost all the same: circular, luminous lights, and so on.
Issues with distinguishing colors. Why is that?
It's because they don't have that traditional school teaching, maybe. I don't know. Where we have this beautiful drawing saying pink, red, yellow. So for them, maybe because of the education when I was a child, maybe. I don't know. It's a hypothesis that I put, but they have issues. For example, oh, this is more to blue or this is more to green. Some colors they have difficulties.
But it's still kind of in the same categories of blue, green, yellow, orange, pink, red. You're still able to get the idea of what they're describing. It's not like they're colorblind or anything like that, correct?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. And so when you were talking to the Brazilian government, trying to get documents pertaining to UFOs through FOIA, what were some of the most surprising findings from the Brazilian government documents you obtained about UFO attacks on indigenous tribes and towns in Brazil?
We thought that after the Operation Saucer, for people that don't know, the Operation Saucer was an operation conducted by the Brazilian Air Force at the end of 70s to try to research and try to figure out what was happening in communities in Brazil that were being literally attacked by light beams emitted by UAP in the states of Pará and Maranhão, which are states in the extreme north of Brazil. Almost all cities in the shore was likely invaded by these vehicles, cylindrical vehicles, spherical vehicles of all sorts of shapes, other shapes, and always luminous. And people was affected physiologically. They received this light beam. They had a lot of symptoms, including faintness, paralysis, and so on. So after this period of the Operation Saucer and after 77, everything returned to normal. These vehicles was gone, go away. Uh, we Brazilians thought that the phenomena never returned to do this kind of stuff, to attack people, like that case in Operation Saucer. But what surprised me most is that these documents from 2014 showed that these vehicles appeared again. These unknown vehicles appeared again, but in indigenous tribes in Amazon, and did the same emission of light beams that affected the indigenous people the same way that were affected people in 70s. The only difference is that in 70s people had a lot of marks, like something excavated the skins, like a biopsy or something like that, gets a sample of the skin. And in these cases, indigenous tribes, we didn't know anything about these samples of skin, only this, and no burns, only this light beam that reaches the people, and they have a lot of physiological effects, almost the same. And this is what surprised me a lot, that this intelligence returned and did the same stuff that did in Savage, logically with some difference, but essentially the same way that affected people, not in indigenous tribes, but in fishermen villages in 77.
The Operation Saucer incident that took place in 1977 is has to be one of my favorite cases. It's one that I talk about so often here on this channel just because we don't come across a lot of UFO encounters where these craft are hostile towards people. Usually, in a lot of instances, we hear people having positive experiences or getting abducted, and that's not so great. But in this case, for Operation Saucer, it was about 6 months of it happening every single night and people being terrified of the situation. And what's shocking to hear is that it took place yet again in 2014. Did what information did you find specifically back in 2014 that you probably found the most compelling?
It seems that the phenomena wanted was more interested in young girls than men's and women's and other people, because 90% of people affected was young girls. This is a surprise for me. At that time in Operation Saucer, we had the statistics. It affected hundreds of people, as you said. Every night the phenomenon was there. The people started to sleep in the same house, armed with shotguns, and even the sheriff of the city was go away, afraid. So only the people started to protect themselves. And at that time, the phenomena preferred the women, but not but and also young humans, but not girls. And this time in Indigenous village, 9% of people affected was little girls like uh, 10 years to 15 years, this age. So this is something creepy that we encounter in this case. We have also cases with men, but minor, and cases where men tried to shot against this phenomena, and phenomena emitted a more lethal light beam that knocked him unconscious. So, but the girls that are affected, the symptoms are at the time where the light comes, but after the light comes, they recovered and no problem, no sequela. But in these cases where people try to shot, they have some kind of loss of memory, get unconscious, and more serious stuff.
The incident that took place in 2014 pertaining to these young girls, did they also suffer with puncture wounds like in the incident in 1977, or did they have weird materials in their body? Did their blood react differently? What were some things that you found?
Yes, the main symptoms, they don't have any marks that we know. Like 77 people had marks, like skin was removed. This not happened, as I know, in these indigenous places. It was more like, say, softer light beam, as we could call it. But there are a lot of symptoms like red face, red skin, like small burns, temporary burns, red eyes, like that viral disease, conjunctivitis, and so on in the eyes, and headaches, loss of balance, and these are the main symptoms that people. They one girl said it's like when you drink a lot, and people drink alcohol. It's not a common beer, but they have their kind of beer for rituals, and the young boys and girls they drink it, so they know what the sensation feels like. Now, one girl described it that it's almost when you drunk this alcohol drink and you feel uncomfortable about the balance, loss of balance, drinking something like that. It's that the feeling that they had. One girl said that it was like my eyes were being, when the light was in my body, it was the sensation was like my eyes were being removed or jumping from my face, something like that is other feeling that they reported.
That I have not heard anything similar to that. Have you in any of your years of research?
No, this was unique, this kind of other symptoms logically, like loss of balance, red face, burns, okay, but this feeling about my eyes are like being removed from a or jumping from my school is not something common that we heard.
No. And how do you explain the reported physiological effects on witnesses, such as paralysis or physical weakness?
We have these reports from Operation South. The only source of reports are these reports from Operation South. Hundreds of people affected and have a lot of documentation about that. Fortunately, There is a difference between cases because at that time in 77 we had a physician there in the fisherman village that it was the one that not left the village. All the professionals left the village. She was a courageous one, which was who was Velaide Cecin, the name of the doctor. She stayed there and documented a lot of cases that military every day went to Dr. Velaide and say, Dr. Velaide, give me the symptoms, give me everything you encountered. So they had these reports, and we know about this from these reports. In this case of indigenous village, we didn't have this a physician, we didn't have a doctor there, so we only have the reports from the federal police that they got from indigenous themselves. So I think there is a lot of lack of data in the indigenous cases because of that absence of a doctor or physician there in the village. So it's very difficult to it's very difficult to know if we have any other symptoms or more difference between these cases because I think there's a lot of lack of data on these new cases.
What's really shocking when looking at really the entire country of Brazil compared to almost any other part of the world, you seem to deal with very hostile craft and entities more so than anywhere else. And we can put Peru in the mix as well. But why do you think that is? Why do you think Brazil is attracting all of this very scary strangeness compared to the United States, China, other parts of South America? What's your reasoning?
I think hostile is a human interpretation. Logically, is the first interpretation that we have when you are being attacked by literally attacked by a light being that make us feel bad. But maybe this is a research, and I always compare with the same thing we do with leopards in Amazon. When you get the leopards, we want to protect these leopards from extinction. We get them against their will. We put some injections to put him knocked on the ground unconscious. We put GPS on them, these animals, administer some drugs in these animals eventually, and this is what we do. And maybe this intelligence is doing the same thing with us. Maybe it only wants to research us, or maybe protecting us, monitor our genomes, our DNA to improve it better. Uh, and sometimes we have these not desired effects because it's not we have some cases in Brazil. I visited some families that had permanent sequela of these operational saucer cases, people that suffered these light beams in the body and had a permanent brain injury and had a lot of mental diseases, and today behave like a child because of this mental aggressive uh, diseases in the brain that manifested. But it's not common, it's not a rule. The most people affected didn't have any diseases, any permanent sequela, and were there during the years to witnesses and to report what they suffered in the past. So maybe this is a not desired consequence of these attacks or this research of this UAP. We don't know, but I think it's we cannot exclude any hypothesis, attacks or even research. But at the end of the day, the people suffering is what we see, and why I don't know, but I have a hypothesis here because in Brazil this always happens against isolated communities that are like fishermen villages in Amazon or indigenous people in Amazon that they have their DNA more intact, their genome more intact because they don't mix a lot with other types of races and humans here in Brazil. And they live, as I said, isolated, and maybe this phenomenon is interested to see the evolution of these not mixed DNAs there in Brazil, like indigenous or fishermen. So it's a hypothesis that I put.
That's a pretty compelling hypothesis, I believe. And when you spoke to the witnesses from Operation Saucer, it's I've also never come across anything where their brains were permanently damaged. When you were speaking to the witnesses in that area, were they open to talk to you? Were they willing, or was it kind of difficult to get the information from them?
For example, I visited this family from Sylvia. Sylvia was a woman that was affected when she had 18 years. As I said, the phenomena preferred young women at that time, Operation Saucer. And after that, he started to develop this mental illness. And today, she doesn't talk. It's impossible to talk with her, have a conversation, really a conversation, because of these mental diseases. When she manifests to talk, she says confused things about, oh, they got me, they will be back, I'm from them, they will, I have implants from them, and some things like that. So, and we cannot establish, as we cannot have a conversation, we cannot establish if it is fantasies, it's something people say to her from the years from there to right now. We simply don't know, but very strange, very creepy. But we talked a lot of their family, and the family say that she developed ability to do some premonitions, like to predict when bad things will occur. For example, my father will be bitten by a snake, a poisonous snake, venomous snake. She When she says something uh, that has makes sense, something that makes sense, it's something like a prediction like that. So it's everything very weird. We heard this in the past with other people that was having close encounters and develop abilities. So this is what I could get from these people that was affected more seriously during the Operation Salsa. We also know that Dr. Gary Nolan is researching and researched a lot of brains of military people, officials that was affected by UAP, and maybe this was one more case.
Unbelievable. And what looking at this part of the brain, those kinds of effects, do you think it's just merely a side effect, or is it by design to open a part of the brain, or is it just simplifying the brain where we all have these innate abilities but our thoughts cloud that? What do you think on that part?
Yeah, many people talks hypothesis that autistic people are people that live in another dimension, another reality, maybe, and they have some special abilities. So maybe this phenomena try to put the best on them, but when you turns this key, maybe people is not able to live at our reality and this reality at the same time. So we perceive them as crazy people, as mental disability people. Maybe the phenomena wanted to, maybe it's a side effect, as you said, a bad side effect. For example, that this woman had something in their DNA that was more susceptible when get hit by this light beam to develop these diseases. But maybe the phenomena try to do a test. Let's try to insert on the brain. Let's turn the key of the brain to develop these abilities and see how she will behave from now. So I think it's a good hypothesis, because if you get the probabilities to people have a serious illness in the brain at the same time develop abilities, it's something crazy, no? So maybe it was the phenomena wanted to do that with that specific person.
So it was intentional.
Maybe yes.
How do you think the Amazon's unique ecosystem might play a role in attracting these phenomena?
In Brazil in general and in the world, the phenomena don't manifest in big cities. In Brazil, it's not different. The phenomena here manifest in places that have less people, less luminosity, that are isolated, that have a preserved ecosystem, mainly rural areas, mountain range areas, jungle areas. So this is where the phenomena manifests logically. And this is the Brazil, all the Brazil, because Brazil had a lot of different ecosystems. Brazil has an area that's a continental area, so have many different landscapes. And in all these landscapes, in beaches, in jungles, in mountain ranges, in everything, we have these cases of orbs and other phenomena. But what is different in Amazon is that in Amazon we have these close encounters more often with these people and these aggressive encounters where people suffer from light beams.
Where do you expect UFO bases and outposts are within the Amazon or the surrounding areas?
Yes, during Operation Saucer, the military witnessed a lot of phenomena coming in and out the rivers, the bodies of water in Amazon. So maybe they and if you get the map, for example, last year I mapped all the cities in Brazil and Peru where the phenomena manifested, where people say the phenomena manifested. And if you get all the cities from the mid of 2023 to the end of 2023, we see that the phenomena follows the path of the river. So maybe the phenomena is using the river to do their research. They're using the river to move, to transport. Maybe it's a hypothesis. And when we see the phenomena coming in and out the forest, maybe it's using the forest also to as a base or something like that. And we know the phenomena is likes to migrate. They don't want to stay in the same place for a long time. This case in Amazon specifically that I went is exception. They are there for right now 3 months, but we know that 1 to 2 months the phenomenon is gone and go to another village and another. And maybe when they are doing this stuff, this research, this kind of word research, they are using the forest and the river as a base to a temporary base to do what they need to do and move to another and so on.
That's pretty remarkable. And what caught my attention, what you just said, was mapping it out and seeing the phenomenon move with one of the rivers. I mean, I am gobsmacked. That's the word I'm going to use for this one. That is really exciting. So, when you found that information, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, when I went to Amazon this year, I tried to establish some correlation between the river and the phenomena, but maybe it's coming from water. But as I said, it's a very difficult place, a very dense forest. It's very difficult to move there, mainly at night. So I could not move further. But what I want in the next expeditions is try to see if this correlation, because I think this is coming from forest. But maybe in that direction of the forest, we have a body of water moving there, maybe a small body of water, a lake or something like that, in that location where the phenomenon is coming in and out. So this is something I try to establish in the next investigations, but it's something in Brazil in general. We have a lot of cases. Most all of cases in Brazil happens near water reservoirs, water bodies. This is very very common here, and maybe they're using these water bodies to establish a temporary or permanent base.
Let's say you come across one of these bases or outposts. What would be your next move?
I don't believe the intelligence would permit me to get closer. As we know in the past, they are very very careful of that. For example, in Amazon, sometimes they disable that specific camera, specific sensor that would permit me to get more detail during that incident. So it's like they have a very sneaky behavior to don't permit us to discover a lot more. And but if it's possible, maybe I would like to put logically a lot of sensors, a lot of equipment to get more and more information. But as I said, depend of them. We are not in control.
That I completely understand. And I think that's where That's where the exciting part is on this. It's not really knowing what the next move is gonna be, but doing it in the moment and really just hoping for the best because like you said, we're not in control, especially when attempting to research the UFO phenomenon. All we can do is follow these breadcrumbs. But then imagine if we were to actually come across an outpost, what will we do? And I think everyone's response is a little bit different, but for the most part, it's it allows you to have a little fun with your imagination to tell yourself, "What would I do?" Take a selfie, right? Ask them a bunch of questions, put up more sensors, like, the possibilities are endless with that one.
And also try to discover what is right there under that water body. Try to do some scuba diving there or something like that. Put sensor there inside the water. Uh, how they establish this base? Is it something physical? Is something non-physical? It's something we can see, we can sense. So yes, a lot of curiosity about how they operate inside these water bodies.
You've also detected a gigahertz frequency signal coinciding with UAP events in both the Amazon and in Rio de Janeiro. Can you tell us your findings on that?
Yeah, in Rio in the past, I witnessed orange orbs at the same time the 1.6 gigahertz frequency using antennas, using software-defined radio. And in Amazon, while I was configuring the equipment, testing the radio equipment, one phenomenon manifested, an orange orb, and I also got a strong, very strong 1.6 gigahertz signal. So something I'm doing right now is trying to get more and more data. I think we need more data to establish that in Brazil we have also the same thing. This not only 1.6 but maybe 1 to 3 gigahertz. And let's remember that arrow don't say many truth. They say most lies, but one truth that maybe they said is that statistical panel from arrow that says that UAP have a radio signature between 1 to 3 gigahertz. So maybe we have this also in Brazil, and something I'm trying to collect. Other thing I'm wanting to do, I'm starting to test it. In fact, is to send this 1.6 gigahertz to the jungle and see if I have any manifestations of the phenomena and response from the phenomena there.
Wow. Which the 1.6 gigahertz really got famous because of Skinwalker Ranch in Utah. So to hear that same thing happen in Brazil, it's just, I mean, when you first found that information, did you think of Skinwalker Ranch? Like what was your thought process on that when you received that signal?
Sure, I started to monitor the 1.6 gigahertz frequency exactly because of the findings of Skinwalker Ranch. And I think the more we share data, the more we will be precise to collect data more and more and more and try to establish what's common between the phenomena in many places around the world. So what I'm doing right now, I'm in contact with many people that are researching, serial scientists, serial people, journalists that are researching the phenomena around the world. So we are trying to establish a correlation between these signals, not only the 1.6 gigahertz, but for example, radiation, ionizing radiation, nuclear radiation signals, and so on.
I'm very excited to continue to follow your research, and we still have a lot more time, but where can people stay up to date on your research?
Yeah, for English speakers, I recommend the Twitter, former Twitter, the x.com/Rony Vernet. I can give you the addresses to put to this conversation after publish. I also publish some videos in YouTube, and but more in Portuguese, but people can use the automatic translation. And these are the two main channels that I use to communicate with people.
And those links will be in the description box below because it seems as if, Ronnie, we're able to see your research in real time. And there's only a handful of on the ground investigations such as yourself. And so for you to do all this and to make your information public, it's like we're on the investigation with you. It's very, very cool.
Yes, and the indigenous people want me to publish that because the Brazilian government don't take it serious most of time. So what I'm doing is also helping them to publish to more people know what's happening, and this will help them in future cases, for example, more aggressive cases and so on.
On that note, what are the key differences between the UFO phenomenon in Brazil and the United States, in your opinion? Have it be the cases, or even have it be dealing with the government and government disclosure and transparency?
Yeah, the Brazilian government is more transparent than the U.S. government. For example, we already have in the Brazilian Air Force a regulation, a legislation saying that every year they need to put all documents about UFOs in Brazilian National Archives. So this is a very good signal of transparency. And but the difference between logically they don't reveal everything they know. We know that they admitted that, but the level of transparency is much higher than US. I think the US is moving to another level right now with new legislation. It will be better than Brazil in the future. But right now, this is my feeling. And about the cases, I think as we discussed, in Brazil, we have more cases between close encounters between people and UFOs, and this specifically aggressive case where people was received these light beams and got physiological effects. And these are cases that are impressive not only because it affected a lot of people, but it's because the phenomena affected many cities. For example, in Operation Saucer, the Colares city is very famous because where the Air Force personnel was installed, but it affected not only Colares, it affected all the cities in 90% of the cities of the shore from Pará State to Maranhão. So this was very serious. I think this covers a big area, a lot of people, as I said, 100 to 1,000 people. So I think this volume of cases between close encounters, people affected, that's the difference between other places in the world.
But in present day, it seems that we're getting better technology, and a lot of people are implementing artificial intelligence or AI. So, what role do you think AI can play in the study of UFOs?
Yeah, so it's something I'm trying to do. First is to get all these documents from Brazilian government, put in a centralized base, and let AI discover things that are in documents. Get, for example, what you asked me, what's the common things between cases from 77 to right now, uh, how the phenomenon behaves, to get patterns. I think get patterns and how the phenomenon behaves will help a lot in to put new sensors, to put new equipment, and to choose a local to install equipment and help research. So I think AI could help a lot of it, and also in real-time analysis, getting classification from images to discern between natural phenomena and anomalous phenomena and other no phenomena and other things.
What technological advancements do you believe are necessary to better capture and analyze these phenomena? Or do you think it's consciousness based?
I think the phenomena manifests where the people are. This is the main reason they attacked these people. They had these encounters. And there are cases in Brazil where I was taking photographs from a specific place in a very huge area forest, and the phenomena manifested right there in that specific place where I was positioned with the camera. So I think it's not a coincidence. I think we can establish links using our consciousness to phenomena. Sometimes people's in Amazon, they when they try to think to get a camera, for example, the phenomena is gone. So maybe the phenomena is able to establish these links with the mind and the consciousness of people and to take some actions. We know that from encounters from military, that phenomena is able to anticipate the actions from fighter pilots. So I think consciousness has a key role in the interaction of phenomena, and something I like to study more in the future is trying to how to establish kind of connection, maybe communication to improve our research.
When you are investigating in the field, do you also use film cameras or only digital cameras?
Only digital cameras. Something people say a lot for me is you need to use some analog cameras, because you know that phenomena affects a lot the digital cameras. But I have some success monitoring this phenomena. I think, as I said, the phenomena is in control, and it's not something about for me, in my hypothesis, not something about electromagnetic interference. It's like reality interference. So I think that even using analog, film, or digital cameras, the phenomena is able to interact in a level more fundamental of reality, that they could disrupt it and change reality anything they want. For example, there's a famous case in Brazil where in 2008, military police in Brazil chased light beams, floating light beams in the middle of sugar canes. And these light beams put in the consciousness and changing the reality of the place to put a lake that didn't exist. To the police, don't chase them anymore. So this is nothing easy. So I think this is fundamental reality manipulation, and we know that reality is in our consciousness, our mind. So again, we are back to this conversation of the interaction between consciousness and this intelligence, and everything's correlated. So I think we'll and every equipment we'll have, if the phenomenon wants to be registered, we'll have success. If the phenomenon doesn't want us to register, it will be impossible no matter what we use.
That case that you mentioned in 2008, what's it called?
Sorry.
The incident that you just mentioned that took place in 2008 where the policemen were chasing these orbs, what's the name of that case?
Was the city of Cláudio. We call it Cláudio case. It's the city of Cláudio in the state of Minas Gerais.
I am learning so much today. It's so cool.
This is one of my favorite cases, because the only case where in Brazil where we have the testimony, a report from emitted from federal police, where the captain say that he chased the luminous beings. He had this mind control about these beings. Imagine that this lake exists and so on. So this is one of my favorite cases, and we have this all written in official documents.
And can we find it on your website?
Sure, I can send you a link. Yes.
Perfect. Shifting gears just a little bit, I'd actually like to talk to you about the Brazilian UFO hearing that took place in 2022. It A lot of people didn't know about it, but what did you cover and how did it affect the conversation for Brazil when looking at UFOs?
I'm already in contact with many officials, senators. We are preparing a letter to the military, to the Minister of Defense and military commanders about that. So I think I'm successfully. It's a little effort. It's not only me. There are other researchers, but I think together we are increasing little more and more each year the awareness of the officials about the phenomena, the interest from the officials, from mainly from politicians, and maybe could in the future have something like Lu Elizondo, Chris Mello, and others helping, because what we don't have today is military, this high rank military or civil people from the government digging more to get more information, to get disclosure about this topic. But maybe in the future, doing this kind of work, bringing awareness, it would be possible to have it.
And in June of 2022, during that Brazilian UFO hearing, what topics were covered?
Yes, we covered a lot of topics. There are a lot of different people there, from spiritual people, from scientific researchers. We covered, for example, previous cases, as a lot of cases we talked today, like this case in Operation Saucer. I talked a lot. My presentation was based on these cases in Amazon specifically, but we covered a lot of these cases historic in Brazil to present this in front of the Brazilian Senate for increase their awareness.
You also spoke at the first Mexican UFO hearing as well. So that took place in September of 2023. How did it differ from the Brazilian UFO hearing in terms of focus and objectives?
The main focus of that hearing was the legislation between pilots, uh, to pilots report what they are seeing. They were fighting to have this legislation. We had many pilots, including Ryan Graves from US. We had uh, dozens of Mexican pilots there present. But when Jaime bring the mummies, these alleged non-human mummies that people are a lot are studying right now, the attentions were all put in these mummies, and this, I think this talk about legislations and relations with pilots and the phenomena became in a second plane. And my mission when I was there was to say, okay, the phenomenon is real. We have a lot of documents, official documents from Brazilian government. I brought all these documents for the Mexican politicians at that time. And during my speech, I talked about these documents, about main encounters between military and the phenomenon. This was my main topic there. Also, this case about Amazon. And this was what I intended to do, was to bring this awareness to the Mexican politicians, to help them to understand this is a real phenomena and that they need to improve legislation to bring more awareness to the Mexican people.
When you were at that hearing in September of 2023, were you aware of the Nazca bodies or did no one tell you about them when you went to go speak at the podium?
One day before I go to this to speech there, uh, I have a meeting with Jaime and the politicians, and they show me, oh, Ronnie, we want to present this at this Mexican hearing. I didn't know anything about them. I learned that on the conference. But I learned this one day before to go there.
Were you on a call with other people when Jaime was providing this information to you, or was it just you and him and a few politicians that were talking about these Nazca bodies?
No, I think as I remember, all the people that were on that meeting, all the people that was doing presentations. So it was the people that everyone knew, not before we go there, but one day after the presentation that this meeting was in place.
Everyone knew about it.
Yeah, during they sent a previous scheduling where there was the names of these people that was researching the militaries and the scientists that was researching the mummies, but it was like a surprise topic. No one could know about that. They wanted to be literally a surprise. But they have some like DNA, the title was DNA evidence or something like that about the non-human human intelligence in Mexico. But only when I arrived there that I could specifically know that this title was referring to these Nazca mummies that where I learned there from the conference.
Okay, got it. So you let me just confirm. You knew about the Nazca bodies the day before the hearing.
Yeah, during they sent a previous scheduling where there was the names of these people that was researching the militaries and the scientists that was researching the mummies, but it was like a surprise topic. No one could know about that. They wanted to be literally a surprise. But they have some like DNA, and the title was DNA evidence or something like that about the non-human human intelligence in Mexico. But only when I arrived there that I could specifically know that this title was referring to these Nazca mummies that where I learned there from the conference.
I have one final question for you. What are your hopes for the future of UAP research in Brazil and globally?
I think with the U.S. fights to reveal more information will help a lot cases worldwide. I think the politicians in U.S. are doing very good work, logically with help of the Grush, Elizondo, Mellon, Colonel and others, the journalists, they're also doing the participate in that, like NAP, like Coulter and others. I think it's a global effort right now. There are many people worldwide together to share information, to try to bring more awareness in their countries, and to help also US to advance more. Because as I said, if US advance more in the disclosure of these information will start to appear from Brazil and from other countries. For example, suppose United States release information that have some information about the Virginia case. uh, I could get this information and fill new FOIA requests about that to get new documents. So I think everything is interconnected, and I think U.S. advancing not only the U.S. government, the fight against U.S. government to get information, but I think also there are citizens, not me only in Brazil, there are people in Brazil and people around the world, citizens that are doing putting these little pieces of this brick to try to form a shape of disclose, and we will know a lot of new information soon, not only from the government but also from people like me around the world. I think the awareness is increasing and more serious people involved that, and everyone like you doing these interviews, getting more awareness for the people, and people doing these travels, these trips, everyone together putting this little piece of the puzzle will help to try to know more about this enigma.
I hope so. I really, really do. I think we are all doing our best efforts to make this conversation really more mainstream, to get more people to talk about it openly. Because a lot of people, what's very shocking is that a lot of people have had UFO sightings that they keep bottled up inside of themselves, never sharing it. But now that this topic is being more openly spoken about, it's becoming easier for people to come forward. Now, Ronnie, we only have a few minutes left, and with all of my guests, I like to end it with a few more fun questions. I classify it as my speed round. Are you ready? If you could choose any fictional character to join you on a UFO investigation, who would it be and why?
Maybe Scully and Fox Mulder from X Files. I love X Files.
That'd be an awesome team right there. What's the most surprising thing that you found in your research that has nothing to do with UFOs?
To know how these encounters transformed people's lives. I think the people's lives were very transformed. The people's Some people had another. I know people that were very jealous, were very had very bad behaviors, and said to me that before these encounters they changed the view of the world and then changed it completely. So this is something that we don't think often, but these encounters change people's lives. So this is something that impressed me, that I was not expecting.
What's the most unusual or quirky UFO related item you own?
I have behind me the scene is blurred, but I have a flying saucer that illuminates my table here, and I love that. It was a gift.
For a second, I thought you were pointing at your cats because they're aliens too, but they are just so adorable.
Yeah, I have two. In fact, I have two non-human intelligence here. First one is my cat, is Kit Kat, and Billy. Billy is my French bulldog. Is also the second non-human intelligence that I have here.
My last one for you is, what's the most interesting UFO related movie or TV show you've ever watched aside from X-Files?
Yeah, I like it a lot. We have the one that I enjoy most is one national documentary from Brazil from Operation Saucer. I had this documentary translated in English. If you want, I can send you a link. It was very incredible. I was a child when I watched it. It was very good scene. We have the simulations of the city being attacked and so on. So this changed my life a lot when I was a child. Started to think about this phenomenon, not research, but uh, this got my curiosity piqued about this since this documentary was released in Brazil. So this is one of my favorite, the Operation Salsa national documentary.
I need to look into that one. I would love to have a link for it because, as I told you, that's one of my favorite cases of all time. And if I can get any new information on that, I definitely will. Ronnie, thank you so much for being on the show today. Once again, can you tell people where they can find you online?
Yes, mainly on x.com/Rony Vernet and youtube.com/Rony Vernet. Also, you can find me there. Please send me a message if you have any questions.
And those links will be in the description box below. Ronnie, thank you so much. If you enjoy the strange and the mysterious, UFOs, the paranormal, and cryptids, this channel is for you. So make sure to subscribe as I do 3 videos right here every single week, and hit that notification bell so you do not miss any of the bonus content I post right here.